franktalks.com.
Check out the Frank Talks Relationship column currently running in the Suburban Newspaper online magazine. To read more, please visit www.thesuburban.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, 'cause Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Stop being single. Remember to sign up for the Stop Being Single newsletter and get weekly tips about how to stop being single and how to start up a love life. Sign up at franktalks.com now.
K103 aims to bring Kahnawake an informative, community-oriented, and diverse talk show. To ensure a variety of voices and opinions, K103 reserves the right to screen calls. Our guests' opinions are not necessarily endorsed by or reflect those of K103 or its management. And now, the Partyline Talk Show on K103.7 FM, Kahnawake.
That's right. You're tuned into the Partyline Talk Show on K103.7 FM for Friday, February 13th, 2015. Today, sitting in for Lori Jacobs, it's me, Jessica O. Lori's going to be back soon. We all have our best wishes sent out to her. We hope to see and hear from her soon. Now, tomorrow's Valentine's Day. So we've got a special show lined up for you today. We're going to be speaking with Frank Kermit, and he's a dating and relationship coach. He's also the best-selling author and speaker. He's also a relationship columnist for the Suburban Newspaper. It's an online magazine. Also, you might not know this, but Frank is the official coach of the Absolute Bachelor Club matchmaking agency. And we'll ask him about all that. I mean, how do you coach people into, making a match, a successful match? There's got to be, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering out there, what's the magic formula? I want to know. So we're going to talk about that. And also, about the pressures of Valentine's Day. Are you, in a relationship right now and you're like, oh, what do I do? Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. I didn't think of anything. She's going to kill me. Or, are you the lady in the relationship and you're like, another Valentine's Day. Can't wait for my big box of nothing. Well, anyway, so we're going to talk about that stuff and the best way to handle Valentine's Day. You've got a little bit of notice before we get into all of that. So, and we're going to talk about Frank. And I mean, maybe you're out there and you want to know, how do I become a relationship coach? What does it take to be a relationship coach? So that's all stuff we're going to ask Frank about. So Frank's joining us right now. How are you doing, Frank?
I'm doing very well, and how are you?
I am fantastic. So, Frank, give us a bit of an idea of what it is you do as a dating and relationship coach. What does that mean? How can I be one? Do I need a natural knack for it? Is it something you're born into?
Generally speaking, we'll start off with the differences between a coach and a therapist.
Okay.
As a therapist, you need to understand mental illness. You need to be able to diagnose it and know how to treat it. People don't go to a coach when they want help with some area of their life that's being blocked by a mental illness.
Right.
People go to a coach because that coach has life experience in a very particular area that they want to improve on. So if the person is looking to get healthy, they're looking for a coach, not necessarily who's been healthy all of his or her life, but somebody who maybe has the same challenges, had the same challenges, and got through it. That's why you go to a coach. A coach can say, I've been there, here's my story, this is how I got out of it, and I'm going to help you through the process I went through. That's why people go to a coach.
Okay. So when we say coach, it is a lot like a coach for athletes, right? This is somebody who's done it. They know what to do. They know what's expected. And it's somebody who can guide you to getting to your goals.
Exactly, whatever that goal may be. So if it's somebody who is a dating and relationship coach, generally speaking, they should have had some of the experiences that you're going through, and they're taking you through the process on how to change that area of their life.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all been positive experiences if you're a coach. It means you've had bad experiences. You've maybe even made relationship mistakes.
The key to being a coach is having gone through something horrible and turned it around.
Okay.
That's the key to being a coach. And that's not just in dating and relationships, it's in every area. So whenever somebody says, I took a certificate on how to be a coach, that generally doesn't mean they're going to make a full-time living off this. In fact, according to a statistic from Concordia University, which actually offers a 6-month certificate program in coaching, 95% of coaches out there only make a part-time living.
Okay, yeah.
And one of the biggest reasons is that people are trying to coach in areas they don't really have life experience in.
Right. Okay. Which is kind of going against what you're telling us a coach does and what makes a good coach. Exactly. Before we go on, I just want to let everybody out there know that if you have any questions for Frank, any relationship, any romantic questions you'd like to ask, you can call into K103. The phone number is 450-638-1313. And our lovely receptionist at the front, Miss Katie Wells, will take your question off air, and she's going to send it to me in here in the studio, and I'll ask Frank for you. So, Frank, tell us about the Absolute Bachelor Matchmaking Agency. Because it sounds like it's aimed more towards men than women.
Generally speaking, the Absolute Bachelor Club Matchmaking Agency does take on men as clients. However, women can also be part of the database. Women can also be part of the roster of who gets matched up with the men.
Okay.
And the agency also offers coaching packages for people who are tired of struggling the way they're struggling, and they want to make that change.
Okay.
People who, the general consensus is that if every relationship in your life has not been a good one, you have to look at the common denominator.
Which is you.
Exactly. Common denominator is you. So if you want the relationships in your life to change, if you want your dating life to change, you're going to have to change something about yourself to break that repeating behavior pattern.
Okay. All right. So it's a matchmaking agency. It's not a dating agency. Is there a difference? Is there something that distinguishes you from, something like Match.com?
Okay, in Match.com or any other dating agency, it's up to the people to make the initial approach. It's up to the people to go out on dates and manage it for themselves. In matchmaking, it's the matchmaker who does that. The matchmaker saves you time.
Okay.
From having to go out on multiple dates with multiple people. You talk to the matchmaker and say, this is what I'm looking for. What we do within the organization is we say, well, is this realistic?
Okay.
Is the type of person you want to be with, would that person want to date you? If not, then you have to make a decision.
So the matchmaker...
We're going to scale down your choices based on what it is that you would be able to attract based on your lifestyle, or if you want to make some significant changes because you want to date a different type of person, a different quality of person, then we're going to help you get to that point.
Okay. So the matchmaker's acting as, let's say, an ambassador or a liaison for you to...
Exactly.
Okay.
And in fact, one of the things that Absolute Bachelor Club Matchmaking Agency does, that they will go beyond the database. Meaning, let's say someone comes in and says, I want to be matched up with this type of person. If there's nobody within the database who fits that, Natasha Noel, who is the matchmaker, the top matchmaker of the organization, she goes out and she will find someone that fits your criteria.
Okay. So you guys are going above and beyond.
Yes.
Okay, great. Before I go on, I don't want to forget this, Frank. I already have a question from a caller. And this is somebody who wants to know, they're getting a lot of different answers from people. They want to know if it's a good idea to propose on Valentine's Day.
Is it a good idea to propose on Valentine's Day? Well, the standard answer is this. If you're not 100% sure that the person's going to say yes, then you might need to reconsider whether or not you propose. It doesn't matter the day.
Okay. So whether it's on Valentine's Day or not, it's...
Don't worry about it being Valentine. Are you proposing to somebody who you already know is saying yes, meaning the person says, look, I'm going to say yes, let's get it over with here. Let's get the proposal done.
Okay.
If you have to question whether or not the person's going to say yes, then you obviously haven't had enough communication and connection with the person that you should be asking.
Okay. All right. So doing it on Valentine's Day is just kind of like a nice perk to proposing in the first place.
It's a wonderful perk. Generally speaking, Valentine's Day is a day that couples can and usually do set aside for some type of romantic connection, a nice reflection of being together, a nice, something out of the ordinary, something to break the routine. Always a good time to propose. With that said, you also have to look at cultural and family traditions and expectations. Sometimes it's expected that a proposal would happen in front of family. Sometimes it's expected that the proposal would happen privately, but then be announced, and then the whole family gets together, which could be on Valentine's Day as well. So be mindful of cultural and family traditions of yourself and your partner.
So if you're thinking of proposing, is it a good idea then to sort of, talk to your partner first and say, how does it go? How does this happen in your family? How do people propose? Do they, like you said, do it privately and then have a big announcement, or do it publicly?
The idea is it's great for a proposal to be a surprise in terms of when it's going to happen. A proposal should not be a surprise in terms of if it's going to happen.
Okay. So this is something you and your partner should have been discussing, whether you both have marriage in mind in the future and with each other.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Those people who go through the proposal process and get a no, that's a sign that this couple was not on the same page.
Well, also that they weren't communicating very well.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. You got it exactly.
Okay. So for anybody out there who might have some questions to ask of Frank, anything to do with relationships, you can give K103 a call at 450-638-1313. Now, we're going to start going through some do's and don'ts of Valentine's Day with Frank, because I guess there's a lot of hype surrounding Valentine's Day. People have big expectations, or they kind of, crumble under the pressure. So what are some of your do's and don'ts, Frank?
All right. First of all, let's talk about some of the do's. Do tell your partner what you want. If you really are into a certain idea, or if you have a certain hope for Valentine's Day, this is no time for subtle hints. This is no time to see, was my partner listening to me when I made a mention of this after a long day of work and we're both tired?
Mm-hmm. So it's not a test for your partner.
No, don't make it a test, because at that point, no matter what is going to be done, you're going to be miserable about it. Valentine's Day, although it is a day to celebrate and be romantic, is not a day where drama is welcome.
No. Okay, that makes sense. So if there's something specific that you want, be upfront. Write it down.
Say, look, for Valentine's Day, these are the things that I would like. Whether you give a range of choices or you talk about one specific thing.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What if you want something, but you're like, I don't really know what I want. I just want it to be special. Here's
the problem.
Yeah.
If you're going in with that type of vague criteria, then it's hit and miss. And what I often see in my office when couples come to me and say, look, we're really not happy here. Mm-hmm. Usually, in the case of, let's say, a Valentine's Day that didn't go as hoped, you had one person who says, I'm not really picky, anything will be fine. And then when the anything happens, well, it wasn't special enough. Mm-hmm. And this is where you're inviting problems that don't need to be there.
Okay.
There's a 50% divorce rate out there, and your ability to manage your relationship is going to predict which side of that 50% you're on.
Okay. So, again, good communication. Not just, I want something, but be specific.
The more specific you are, the happier you'll be.
All right. Okay. And our number 2 of a Valentine's Day do.
Be grateful for anything that happens.
So even if you're specific, but they still kind of miss the mark?
The fact that you have a partner at all that is making an effort to do something special for you, that is the essence of what you are looking at. Be grateful for that. Because for every one person who says, you know, it was great, but it wasn't what I was hoping for, I have an entire list of people who are single and miserable being single. I'm not talking about the people who are happily single. I'm talking about the people who are single and miserable about it, and they would love to trade places with you.
Right.
And if you continue acting like that, somebody from that list will be taking your spot very soon.
Okay. All right. And what are some of the great ways to show appreciation and be grateful? Is it more than just a simple thank you?
Depends on the partners.
Okay.
Sometimes people want more of a massage. They want some kind of intimacy. They want to feel appreciated. The idea is that if somebody is doing something nice for you, even if you had both agreed, look, neither one of us is going to give each other a gift, okay? We've been a couple for a long time, let's not give into this. And somebody shows up and says, well, here's one flower.
Okay.
It's nice, it's sweet. Be grateful about it. Now is not a time to turn around and say, but come on, we agreed that we wouldn't.
Just say thank you.
Just say thank you and just be grateful. And if you really, really want to see what it's like, look at the people around you who are miserable being alone.
Okay.
Let that be a reminder. Look at the people around you that are going through the divorces, that are going through the broken families, that are going through having to do visitation with their kids. Be grateful for what you got. Sure, it may not be perfect. Yeah, it may not have been everything you'd hoped for, but come on, you could do that tomorrow. It doesn't have to be Valentine's Day. It doesn't have to be perfect.
All right. Okay. So we went through the first two do's of Valentine's Day. We got to take a quick break. But for those of you who might have tuned in a little bit late, today on the Partyline Talk Show, we're speaking with Frank Kermit. He's a dating and relationship coach, and he's on the air with us, and we're going over the do's and don'ts of Valentine's Day. Also, if you have any questions, because let's be honest, Valentine's Day is tomorrow, there's still time to do something, right? So if you have any questions, you can give us a call at K103 450-638-1313. Let Katie know what your question is, and we'll ask Frank. All right, we're back on the Partyline Talk Show on K103.7 FM. My guest today is Frank Kermit. He's a relationship coach. He's a best-selling author, and he's on the air with us. We're lucky. If you have any questions about relationships, give us a call here at K103 450-638-1313, and we'll take your questions off air, and then we'll ask those questions of Frank for you. So, Frank, just so we can give people an example of some of the questions that we have been getting, we've got a couple of questions. Okay.
And one of the reasons I ask that, because I just want to cut to the solution here, okay?
Right.
If the reason he's not putting a lot of thought in because maybe now after so many years they have kids, they have other priorities, sometimes people are just exhausted. And if you want to motivate them to do the things that were done when you first started dating, first and foremost, my recommendation is, can you make the person feel appreciated for everything they're doing right now? Because sometimes a lack of thoughtfulness is a direct relation to not feeling as appreciated. When we first start dating, in that honeymoon phase, we're so appreciative of just having someone new in our life, and just making someone feel appreciated brings out their thoughtfulness. But it's so easy when you've been with the same person for a while and now you've gotten into the routine of things. Now you're trying to build a future together, build a life together. You're both exhausted. You're not really thinking about those things. Start off by being really appreciative for everything that person's doing. For example, even just saying, oh, by the way, I wanted you to know, I really appreciate the fact that you got up this morning and did your thing. I know you're really tired and you're still doing it, and it means a lot to me. Person's going to look at you and say, okay, what are you planning? Mm-hmm. Why are you bringing this up?
Okay.
And if they are reacting that way, that's the sign that, oh, I'm not showing appreciation enough.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Frank. Okay, so let's move on to the number 4 of Valentine's Day.
Number 4, dues. Do give someone a chance if they ask you out.
So if you're single...
If you're single and someone who, let's say, is a friend, you've known the person for years, and you've only ever seen that person as a friend, and they say, hey, look, you're single, I'm single, let's go out on a date, and it's Valentine's Day, let's try. Say yes.
Okay, so you encourage people to date friends. That's something you think is, you shouldn't close yourself off to friends.
The biggest mistake that people make is when they have a friend that treats them well, that is willing to take the friendship to the next level, and they say, well, no, because I'm not feeling it. The reason you're not feeling it is you've never given that person a proper chance. And the strongest relationships are the ones where people not only feel like partners and lovers, they also feel like friends.
Now, we hear about women friend-zoning men often. Do you think this is something women do more than men?
I think so, just because the impulse for men to just want to have sex even with their friends is always there. It tends to be there.
You know, and I always tell people, I said the difference between men and women is that men are friends with women they're waiting to sleep with, and women are friends with men they never plan on sleeping with.
Exactly. I think that's very good. That's very astute.
Oh, thank you. So give your friends a chance.
Hey, look, if somebody has the courage to ask you out, my advice is say yes, because as it is, the friendship is over.
Okay.
When somebody has feelings for another person and they're friends, that friendship is over. And you're surely not going to stay friends in the next 10 or 15 years when you both move on to have lives.
Okay. All right.
You may be acquaintances, you may always know the person, but it's not like you're going to be there on the other end of the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning listening and talking to each other about your problems.
Right. Okay.
So if somebody who you already know, who you already trust, who already treats you well, is willing to take a chance, it's a compliment. And when a friend is rejecting a friend, that is the biggest insult. Your friendship is going to end anyway. You may as well take the chance to see if you can take it to the next level.
Oh, that's some interesting insight, Frank. I've never thought of it that way. All right, so the number 5 of Valentine's Day.
See? And do make it a special day if you feel it's right.
Okay, the key being if you feel it's right.
Not everybody wants to celebrate Valentine's Day. I know some people who make it a point not to celebrate Valentine's Day because they don't want to be controlled by the system.
Right.
Look, whatever it is you feel, okay? If you want to make it a special day, go for it. If you don't want to make it a special day and your partner agrees, you don't have to.
Okay. Nobody's holding a gun to you.
You don't have to feel pressured either way.
Okay. The number 6 do of Valentine's Day?
Do make an effort to give your partner what your partner asks for.
Okay.
So it's not all about you. Make the effort.
Right.
Make the effort. If your partner really says, you know what I would really like on Valentine's Day, I would like this. And as long as it's not something that's crossing over your personal boundaries, go for it.
So that brings us back to number 1, which is be specific. If you want something, spell it out.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, go on.
It's not just about what your intent is. If your partner really has it in him or her that they would like to experience something, and again, it's not completely against your boundaries, go for it.
All right. You're tuned into the K103.7 FM Partyline Talk Show. My guest for this afternoon is Frank Kermit. He's a relationship coach. If you have any questions, we'll take them off air. The number's 450-638-1313. Give us a call and we'll get your question to Frank. So the number 7 do of Valentine's Day, Frank.
Do try something new.
Okay.
This is for those people who may be hesitant to try something new because they figure, well, what if it doesn't turn out to be such a great experience? Well, maybe it won't be a great experience, or maybe it'll be better than anything you've ever tried before. So do try something new. And this applies to single people as well.
Okay.
When someone is single and it's Valentine's Day and they're wondering, what should I do? Well, maybe going to the same places you've always gone to is a bad idea. because you're always going there and nothing has happened. You haven't sparked up anybody. Mm-hmm. Maybe you go someplace you've never gone to before and chance meeting somebody new that day.
All right. Okay. And you know what I like to say sometimes is it might, you try something new. It might not be fantastic, but, at least it still turns into an interesting story, something to tell people about. Right. Okay. And the number 8?
Number 8, do respect your partner's boundaries. And, this is where sometimes somebody makes a request that they know their partner is not thrilled with. They know their partner would rather not do, but they say, come on, it's Valentine's Day, do this for me. Well, that type of bratty behavior doesn't always, translate well long term.
Right.
So do respect your partner's boundaries. If there's something that your partner would really not experience or not do, just be respectful of a person's boundaries. You'd be amazed how people are motivated to be good to you when you're good to them.
Okay. Right, because there's nothing romantic about coercion.
No, there isn't.
Okay. And we have a question off air, and let's get to it right away. So we have a man asking, he says, and we've kind of already addressed this a bit, so maybe just to let people know. He says he's been in love with his best friend. She's a girl for years, and she's single right now. He's single. Should he confess his love on Valentine's Day? And what are the chances she's going to reject him?
Wow. Let's be very clear here.
Okay.
Should he ask her out? Yes. Should he confess his undying love? No.
Okay, so yes, but with limits, right?
There's a reason for this.
Okay.
Life is not the movies. When somebody confesses their undying love, what they're doing is that they're putting an incredible amount of pressure on the other person. I have been in love with you for years. Translation, I have lots and lots of high expectations, and this has to work out or I will be devastated.
Okay.
Putting somebody on the spot like that is not romantic. It only works if the other person feels the same way. But sometimes, especially if they've been friends for years, they may never have just given it a chance. So it's not that they couldn't develop feelings. It's not that they couldn't try. It's just that we've just never gone there. I've just never considered it. It's just, it's not something that's ever crossed my mind. But you go in there and say, look, I've been madly in love with you. We got to do something here. Whoa, slow down. Sometimes people don't even feel safe with that kind of uncalibrated behavior. If two people were already secretly in love for the longest time, sure, it'll work. They'll go on a date. It still doesn't mean that they're going to be on the right side of that 50% divorce rate. Don't go in there with this big confessional. Just go in there and say, listen, I'm single, you're single. I think you're pretty awesome. What do you say? Let's make a date of it. Let's give it a shot.
Right.
I'm dead serious. And that's it.
Just being open to it.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So back to the do's and don'ts. The number 9 of Valentine's Day, you say, is do go out if you are alone on Valentine's Day. So this is for the single people.
This is for the single people. I remember one Valentine's Day, I was seeing 2 or 3 girls very casually. And I made the mistake of figuring, well, I'll just wait to see which one, asks me out on Valentine's Day first, which was a mistake. Because as we approached Valentine's Day, it became phone call after phone call after phone call saying, I've met somebody, and I want to give it a shot. So I ended up being single on Valentine's Day. And I said, what am I going to do? I have no plans. And I was in a period of my life that I call my period of development, where I was making all kinds of changes and learning about dating and relationships. And I said, I'm going to go someplace I've never been to. So it being 50 Shades of Grey, this Valentine's Day coming out, I went to my first fetish club on Valentine's Day.
Well, that's really shaking it up.
That is incredibly shaking it up. So I called up the place and I said, listen, what's your dress code? I have no idea. And so I dressed all in black, went to this place, and that was it. And I didn't really talk to anybody. I kind of just was more of a wallflower, just watching this environment. I'd always had a curiosity of it. Just wanted to see what this was about. And it was still a lonely Valentine's Day, but what an educational one.
And again, you come back with a great story, right?
Exactly. And the best part of that night is when I did make small conversation with people, my conversation was related to saying, well, this is my first time here. I'm kind of curious. What do you like about this? And I just got to learn about people in general.
Oh, all right. Okay. And the number 10 of Valentine's Day, the number 10 do.
Yes, this is actually very difficult for all the jealous people out there. Do be happy for people that are enjoying celebrating Valentine's Day. Those people who sit there and squalor and are angry and are upset because, oh, those people are enjoying Valentine's Day, bah humbug. You know, nobody wants to be around a negative person.
Right.
You should just be happy for people. If someone is happy for whatever reason, be happy for them. Okay, just because you're not experiencing it or just because it's not important to you, that's not the point. It's not all about you. If you see a couple that are really enjoying Valentine's Day and celebrating it together, be happy for them. Being happy for other people's success puts you in the right frame of mind, and it'll also put you in positions where you can enjoy success on your own terms as well.
Okay. All right. So we got to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to be back. We're speaking to Frank Kermit. You're tuned into the K103.7 FM Partyline Talk Show. If you have any questions about relationships, or you have, you want a little bit of advice, you can give us a call at 450-638-1313, and we will ask Frank your question off air. So stay tuned, or you know what? Give us a call, and we'll get to your questions. All right, you're tuned into the K103.7 FM Partyline Talk Show. It's Friday, February 13th. Oh, I just realized it's the 13th. It's Friday the 13th. So on the air with us, we have Mr. Frank Kermit, and Frank is a relationship coach. Now, if anybody out there has any questions, you've got a romantic situation you need some advice about, you can give us a call at K103 450-638-1313, and we'll get your question to Frank. So, Frank, we went through the 10 do's of Valentine's Day. Now, you say there's also some don'ts to keep in mind. What are those?
All right, well, the first one is don't confess your undying love for your best friend. We already talked about that. Someone came in with a question related to that. Number 2, don't try to make your partner feel guilty for anything, because they may not want to do the things that you want to do for Valentine's Day. This is not a war. This is not a struggle. If you're trying to make your partner feel guilty for anything, maybe you are not the right partner for that person.
Okay, good point.
Next, do not break up with someone just because it's Valentine's Day.
Do people do that? They break up because it's Valentine's Day?
It's Valentine's Day, it's a day of reflection, and they decide, well, it's Valentine's Day, and I don't really want to spend it with you, so I don't see there's a future here, so they break up on Valentine's Day.
Oh, that seems really selfish.
It is, but people do that. So, this is why, look, you break up, if you're going to break up with somebody and Valentine's Day is coming up, break up with them before Valentine's Day, because it gives them a chance to find someone who does want to be with them.
Okay. I've got a question off air, and this is from Brittany. She's asking, she says she found out that her husband has been flirting with his ex on Facebook. This happens a lot. Now, he doesn't know that she knows, and he's trying to meet up with the ex, but the ex isn't interested. Now, Brittany says she knows that the ex is also married, and she doesn't want to meet up with her husband. So what should she do? What should she tell her husband? Well, he doesn't know that she's aware of this. How does she proceed?
Okay, first thing she needs to do is that she needs to print up a couple of copies of those exchanges.
A couple of copies.
Okay, one copy that she gets to store away somewhere just in case she ever needs it as evidence.
Okay.
And one copy that she's going to present to her husband.
Okay.
Now, there's different ways to present it. She can go right up to him and say, here. She can leave it for him on his nightstand or on the bed. And this is to let him know, by the way, I know.
Okay.
Now, it's important to remember that infidelity of this nature does not automatically mean the end. Generally speaking, the best way to handle any sort of infidelity, or in this case, an attempt at infidelity, we don't know if this is the first time he's tried or if he's regularly been cheating on her and this is just one of many. We don't know. What we can tell you is that infidelity is rarely the end of a marriage.
Okay.
If you look at it as a symptom of something that the couple needs to work on. So see it as a symptom of maybe something that's going on that the couple is not addressing.
Okay.
Is he a sex addict? Is he going out there and being very reckless? Was there something that this particular ex made him feel that he's not getting in his current marriage? Is there something, one of his needs that's not being met? This is what we need to look at.
Okay. We have another question off air, which actually follows nicely with the first question. Now, this caller wants to know, how many chances should she give the man she's in a relationship with? She says he's already strayed twice.
How many chances?
How many chances?
Okay, it's not about a number of chances. The question is, after he strayed the first time, did something change in order to make sense that the relationship would continue?
So did the relationship improve after that?
Did it improve? Did whatever was the problem, did that change? Did they go into counseling together? Was something that was previously not addressed now being addressed? If a change occurred and this happened a second time, you're probably with the wrong person.
Okay.
Because one of the things that needed to change was, if I'm unhappy with something, can I talk to you? So is there a way that they could have avoided this situation? Is there an expectation there that is not realistic? The fact is, maybe he's not cut out for monogamy, but she won't discuss any sort of alternative relationship structure.
Now, that's an interesting point, that some people really don't believe in monogamy, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want to be in a relationship. And I think sometimes that can be confusing for people. What do you say about that?
Look, no one relationship structure works for everybody. You have to find what works for you. This is why if you have a lot of dating experience, the benefit of that is you figure out what it is that really works for you and what you cannot deal with. If you're with somebody that is just not monogamous, and there are people that don't feel balanced in monogamous relationships, then you have to find a way to structure that relationship so that the most important thing, being honest with your partner, can still happen.
Okay. All right.
Okay, and if you really can't handle being in a non-monogamous relationship structure, and let's face the facts, not everybody's monogamous, but not everybody is non-monogamous. You may have to seek out a partner that has the same values you do, but that partner that has the same values you do may not necessarily be the one who turns you on the most. It's not about how you feel. It's about the partner you can best build a future with that has an overall balance of meeting your needs.
Okay. We're getting a couple of questions. We've got a couple off air. I've got another one here, and it has to do with the internet again. So this is Marnie, and she says she's met a guy online, and he keeps asking her to send him pictures. It's been 2 weeks, and this guy says that he doesn't want to meet her in person just yet, but he keeps asking for photos. She's not sending anything, that's nude or anything sexy, just pictures of her, and he says it's because he likes looking at her. Now, should she keep sending photos?
No.
Should she have sent them in the first place?
Absolutely not. If she wants that kind of approval or validation, she can continue posting selfies on Facebook or something of that nature. Look, if you're going to go into online dating, the point is you want to meet face-to-face as soon as possible to find out if you can have a legitimate connection here in the real world. Right now, for all we know, because they haven't met face-to-face, he's refusing it, but he keeps asking for photos. Is he using these photos to create false profiles on other dating sites? Is he using these photos for his own pleasure? Is he maybe a friend of hers that's just collecting photos of her? Is he an enemy of hers that's collecting photo of her? it's not what you're there for. If
Right.
you're meeting somebody through online dating, the goal is meet in person. If he's that enamored with the way she looks, wouldn't it make sense that he would want to be with the real thing?
Right. Okay. And all the alternatives you listed are all pretty creepy.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to the don'ts of Valentine's Day.
Okay. Next, don't ignore Valentine's Day. Okay, now, let's say you can't celebrate Valentine's Day on the actual date itself. You're both working, maybe one of you has got obligations with family, maybe there's some event, you're away, you're out of town for those days for whatever reason. It doesn't mean that because you didn't get to celebrate Valentine's Day on the 14th that you should ignore it. It means that you're just going to have to say, well, we're going to have our Valentine's Day on another day.
So you can reschedule Valentine's Day.
Absolutely. In fact, it's a sign that you really are considerate to your partner when you say, look, I know we weren't able to celebrate it together on the 14th, but that's okay, because this is a day that we both have off. Why don't we do something that day, and that'll be our personal Valentine's Day.
Which kind of makes it more romantic.
Well, for some couples it does.
All right. Okay. And the next don't of Valentine's Day.
Don't limit yourself to celebrating Valentine's Day for only your romantic connections. Just because you don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend on Valentine's Day doesn't mean you can't celebrate it. You can celebrate it with your family. You can bring the whole family together if you want to. You can celebrate it by bringing all of your friends together. The idea that although Valentine's Day traditionally is a day that couples get a chance to be together and celebrate their connection, single people can still celebrate their connections to people, and it doesn't have to be a romantic connection.
Okay. So we had a question off air, more of like a statement, but, somebody was wondering, for people who choose to be single, and they're not looking for anybody, sometimes, it's not due to any bad decisions. Should they just be happy that they're single and, not kind of fall for the pressure of Valentine's Day?
Well, how do I say this without sounding horrible?
Okay.
If the pressure of Valentine's Day is making you feel bad about yourself, chances are you were already feeling bad about yourself, and this just brought it to the surface.
So no matter how much you say you're happy being single and you're not looking for anyone, if Valentine's Day makes you feel like you're missing something, then...
Chances are you were already feeling like you were missing something.
Right. Okay.
You can't be made to feel bad about something that you feel good about.
Good point. Okay. Okay, back to our don'ts of Valentine's Day.
Okay, next. Do not go above the agreed upon budget. If you and your partner have both agreed, look, we're trying to save money to buy a house, we're trying to save money to buy a car, we're in the process of debt repayment, and we have agreed that we weren't going to spend more than $10 on a Valentine's Day gift for one another, and you go ahead and spend $60, $70, $80 on that gift for your partner. I get it. It's a nice gesture. But all you've done is made your partner feel awkward because they didn't give you something of equal value. And in fact, you're not sticking to the goals of the couple. And that's more damaging than not getting your partner the gift you really wanted to get them.
Right.
When you said goals of the couple, you have to be on the same team. Okay, it's the two of you against the world. And if you can't even follow the rules of the couple that the two of you have set, you're not going to be able to take on the world and win.
And isn't, finances and the strain of managing money sometimes one of the big contributors to the end of a relationship?
Absolutely, especially if you don't know how to manage your money, or at the very least, you both disagree on how to manage money.
And this just, is another nail in the coffin then?
Exactly.
Okay, all right. And the next don't of Valentine's Day?
Do not act bitter.
Mm-hmm.
Look, your love life might not be where you want it to be, but acting bitter about it doesn't help. I remember one time, and this is not related to Valentine's Day, but it's just an example. I went to a wedding. I went alone. And I was really hoping that at this wedding there would be somebody there that I could meet. Most of my friends at that point had paired up. Most of my friends were in relationships. So I got there, I scanned around, and I realized that there's not one person here who's in my age group that I could be, interested in dating. So I really am here alone. Now, I could have sat there and been bitter all night, but I decided to run a little experiment. I said, no, I'm going to make the most of it tonight. I'm going to have a great time. I'm not going to care about the fact that I'm alone tonight. I am here to celebrate the union of two friends who I really care about. And by the end of that, I got to be the life of the party. I got to dance with different people. I got to talk with a lot of people. It was a good time. I was a fun person to be around. And just between you, me, and your audience, some woman slipped me her phone number by the end of the night that I didn't even know would have been available to date.
Oh, well,
so
lucky
you never know.
Right.
You never know.
Okay, we've got about 2 minutes left, and we've got 3 more don'ts of Valentine's Day to go through, Frank. So number 8.
All right, number 8, don't bash what you hate about dating and relationships. We don't want to know what you hate about dating and relationships. Just because you hate aspects of it doesn't make it okay if you're single, if you're miserable being single. Mm-hmm. Number 9, don't get caught up in the marketing of Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is what you can make of it. Just because you're being marketed to spend all kinds of money you don't have doesn't mean you have to do it.
Okay.
And the last one, don't have unreasonable expectations. Keep your expectations reasonable. That's just not for Valentine's Day. That's for all areas of your life.
All right. Good advice, Frank. I think, when I listen to your 10 do's and don'ts of Valentine's Day, I think it all boils down to don't be selfish.
I really like the way you summarized that. That's awesome.
And Valentine's Day is about being in a relationship. So, yeah, don't be selfish. All right.
Awesome.
Okay, great, Frank. So, Frank, if anybody, wants to learn more from you, what sort of media resources are there for them out there?
Okay, well, visit my website, Frank Talks, with a T, franktalks.com. That's my website. It has every media, radio interview, television interview I've ever done on that site. It shows you my books. There's over 10 books. There's over 50 CD lectures available for sale. I'm also available for private coaching, one-on-one coaching packages. And if you're interested in matchmaking, absolutebachelorclub.com.
Great, Frank. Okay, thanks for joining us on the K103.7 FM Partyline Talk Show. I hope we hear from you soon.
So do I. I love being on your station. All the best.
Yeah, Anna. So that was Frank Kermit. If any of you are looking for more information from Frank, if you're, interested in getting some coaching or reading some of his materials, again, go to www.franktalks.com and you'll get all the links you need there. So Valentine's Day is tomorrow. Best of luck to all of you. Thanks for tuning in to the K103.7 FM Partyline Talk Show. Thanks for having lunch with us.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
Remember to sign up for the Alternative Relationship Choices ARC newsletter and get weekly tips to guide you through polyamory, swinging, and the basics of non-monogamy. We can help you find your ARC, your alternative relationship choice. Sign up at franktalks.com now.
franktalks.com, Frank Talks, franktalks.com, Frank Talks, franktalks.com, franktalks.com, Frank Talks, franktalks.com, Frank Talks, franktalks.com, Frank Talks, franktalks.com, Frank Talks, Frank Talks.
The Monogamy Map. Remember to sign up for the Monogamy Map newsletter and get weekly tips about navigating the journey of setting up and creating successful monogamy for two. Sign up at franktalks.com now.
franktalks.com franktalks.com franktalks.com